Today's gospel reading from the Gospel of St. Luke involves some very difficult sayings of Jesus. As the deacon just read in the gospel reading, there's one sentence that you may have found difficult to swallow, because Luke quotes Jesus as saying, "If anyone comes after me without hating his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, even his own very life, he cannot be my disciple." I'll say a little bit more about this a little later on. At any rate, Luke pictures Jesus speaking about the conditions of discipleship. And Jesus names 3 conditions for being a follower of his, each one ending with, "cannot be my disciple." The first one, apparently, is the one that a believer, a follower, must hate his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, and even one's own life. And of course, that's very disconcerting. To hate one's father and mother, in the sense of detesting them, would be monstrous and not at all characteristic of Jesus. But that is Luke's way of interpreting what Jesus had taught the crowds. However, what we have to remember is the Greek word for hate also means to disregard rather than give preferential treatment to someone. And that's the meaning that St. Matthew uses in his gospel account about what Jesus said. St. Matthew seems to have caught what Jesus was saying when he quotes him as saying, "Whoever loves father and mother, brother or sister, more than me is not worthy of me." And so he doesn't actually use the word hate. In other words, Jesus must come first in our lives. First, even before those closest to us, and he must be more important than things of everyday life. Now, don't fear that you're failing in this requirement because your feelings are very strong toward your family or toward your own life. It's not a matter of feelings of affection, but it's a matter of not allowing anyone else or anything else to become more important than our commitment to follow Jesus. The second condition of discipleship is about carrying our cross and following Jesus. It's similar to the first in that Jesus requires our willingness to face radical self-denial, to be willing to make whatever sacrifices are required in our state of life. And that can vary, of course, from person to person. The third condition of discipleship is a willingness to share our material blessings, not only with the Lord, but also for people and classes of people with special needs. Jesus did not ask everyone that he knew to give up all their possessions. After all, some of Jesus' friends must have been well off, because they're the ones that took care of Jesus' needs and that of the apostles. On the other hand, if our possessions prevent us from being able to serve God, then we have to be willing to say goodbye at least to some of them. In St. Mark's Gospel, we do find a similar idea where Jesus says, "What profit is there for one to gain the whole world and forfeit his life in the process?" And by forfeiting life, he means forfeiting everlasting life. Entering into the kingdom of God is worth more than all the riches of the world. In the two little parables that Jesus told about the tower and about the king going to war, he reminds us that deciding to be a disciple of Jesus is a serious matter, and we should not make that decision lightly. Jesus in the gospel challenges his disciples to consider the cost before beginning the journey of discipleship. Living as a disciple of Jesus involves loving Jesus above all things, even above love of one's family, self, or earthly things. Discipleship involves taking up our cross and following Jesus through self-discipline and sacrifice for the good of others. On the bright side, the end result of a life, this leads to a life of peace, fulfillment, and joy. And that joy comes not only in the next life, but right here in this life as we journey toward the everlasting life of heaven.